The cameras flashed. The world kind of held its breath, didn't it? For decades, he was the Duke of York, a title with, well, a lot of history, public standing. But then, October 17th, 2025, that terse palace statement dropped. Confirmed what many thought was inevitable. It felt like a final decree, didn't it? A real, inescapable exile.
Oh, absolutely, a reckoning. And the headline just shot around the globe. Prince Andrew renounces using the Duke of York title. His honors, too. Basically, exiled from public life. The pressure from those renewed Epstein allegations he was just crushing.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we really dig into the source material, the articles, the research, all the notes behind the biggest stories in celebrity and royal life. We cut through the noise, try to give you the insight, the drama, the context. And today, our mission is laser-focused. We're unpacking this huge royal crisis, looking at just how historically significant it is. And, crucially, connecting that fallout to what else is happening, The celebrity news defining the week, Hollywood power players, the music scene, all of it. Okay, let's start right at the heart of it. This move, it's really rewritten the modern rulebook for the Windsors. Prince Andrew, King Charles III's brother, he's formally announced he won't use the title Duke of York anymore, or his honors. And this isn't just like the military titles they took before. That was big, but this feels bigger. This is a big one, right?
It really is. What makes this historically seismic, as you said, is the impact on a major dukedom. This is the first time in, over 100 years that a senior royal has been forced into such a public surrender of his identity. You have to go all the way back to 1919, Prince Charles Edward, stripped of his titles because he sided with Germany in World War I. Now, that needed an act of parliament. It was basically treason. This is technically different, but the signal it sends, just as powerful. It really shows how the current monarchy is prioritizing image control above almost anything else.
Okay, but I got to push back slightly there. The sources do clarify a technicality, don't they? He still gets to be called prince. It's a birthright. And the dukedom itself, it technically still exists. Like, you need parliament to actually remove it fully.
Yeah.
So if he still has the title, is this really an exile? Or is it more clever PR to contain the damage?
Well, it's both, isn't it? But the public consequence is way more damaging than the technical stuff. Look, the 2022 decision, stripping the military roles, removing him from royal duties, that hurt, sure, but it felt kind of procedural. This October 2025 move, though, it hits the symbolic heart of who he was in public, the name everyone knew him by. Plus, he gave up his knighthood, the GCVO, Knight Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order, and really importantly, his spot as a Knight of the Garter.
Right. Tell us why the Garter thing matters so much. What's the significance there?
Okay, so the Order of the Garter, it's the oldest, the most prestigious order of chivalry in the UK. It's often called the sovereign's personal gift. When you lose that, you lose this really tangible public symbol of the monarch's trust, their favor. It makes this move feel pretty irreversible, at least in terms of public perception. The monarchy is basically showing they'll cut deep personal ties to protect the institution itself. And the immediate fallout is clear. His ex-wife, she's no longer the Duchess of York, now she's just Sarah Ferguson.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting for me. The timing. Why now? Andrew's been in the shadows since, 2019 when he stepped back from public duties. The palace has weathered years of this scandal. So why October 2025? The sources point to very specific things, right? New evidence. That shocking posthumous memoir, leaked emails, seems like that finally broke the king's patience, forced this immediate action. Stick with us, because we're about to dive into the exact details that seem to have been the smoking gun. All right, segment 2. We've titled this, The Memoir and the Email Threatened to Reignite the Scandal. Because the urgency for the palace in October 2025, it seems clearly driven by all this renewed media focus on Virginia Giuffre's allegations.
Absolutely. Giuffre, who alleged Epstein trafficked her and that she had sex with Andrew when she was 17.
Yeah.
She tragically died by suicide back in April. She was only 41. But her death, horrific as it was, didn't end the story. Not at all. Instead, excerpts from her memoir, published after her death, brought those specific, really damaging claims roaring back into the public eye with incredible force.
And the content, reading the reports from our sources, it's intense, graphic, and it speaks directly to that whole dynamic of power and privilege. One source claims she wrote that Andrew apparently believed that having sex with me was his birthright. End unquote. Just that alleged quote alone.
Yeah.
Wow. It shifts the story from just a personal scandal to this bigger commentary on royal privilege versus, modern accountability.
Precisely. That level of detail, it just re-energized the public anger, which had maybe quieted down a bit since the civil case was settled in 2022. Remember, Andrew settled that case. We don't know for how much. He acknowledged Epstein was a sex trafficker and Giuffre was an established victim of abuse. But crucially, he still denied having sexual relations with her himself.
And we can't forget that BBC interview back in November 2019, the one where he tried to clear his name, but just made things worse.
Oh, that interview. It was a masterclass in tone deafness, wasn't it? He gave those bizarre, almost clinical rebuttals, like claiming he was medically incapable of perspiring to counter her memory of them dancing. And the criticism was fierce, rightly so, for him, showing basically zero empathy for Epstein's victims. So the denial narrative was already shaky, but then came the leaked email reports.
Yeah, this is where, for many people, that denial just completely unravels. We already had that photograph of Andrew and Giuffre, but then newspapers published an email reportedly sent by Andrew to Epstein in 2011.
And that alleged email is the absolute crucial contradiction. It reportedly said, "We are in this together, play some more soon." Now, this flies directly in the face of Andrew's public claim for years that he'd cut off all contact with Epstein back in 2010. The evidence, at least in the public eye, suggests he wasn't truthful about how long that relationship lasted or what it involved. And when the monarchy is facing a situation where a senior member appears fundamentally dishonest, well, the only way out if you want to protect the crown's integrity is radical separation.
And this whole drama, it's not just contained to Andrew, is it? It's spilling over, affecting others connected to him, even people trying to move past their own history with Epstein.
Right, which brings us to Sarah Ferguson. Fergie. In September 2025, just a month before Andrew's big announcement, she gets dropped as a patron from the Julia's House charity. Why? Because of a resurfaced 2011 email she sent to Epstein calling him a supreme friend. Now, her spokesperson tried to do damage control, claiming the email was sent while trying to, quote, assuage Epstein and his threats after she'd publicly condemned him. But the timing, the fact these things keep resurfacing, it just shows how toxic that whole connection still is. The entire royal system seems to be bracing for more fallout. You know, if the palace's drastic, historic move shows what happens when a public figure completely loses control of their narrative, maybe we should pivot. Let's look at some celebrities who are, frankly, masters of managing their public image, navigating fame, even using their personal lives to boost their professional success.
Yeah, it's a totally different playbook for handling the spotlight, isn't it? Like in the music industry, things sound a bit happier. We're shifting from royal exile to wedding bells with Phineas O'Connell, Billie Eilish's brother, her musical partner.
Right. Phineas and his fiancée, Claudia Salewski, they're planning their wedding, got engaged September 24th, been together 7 years. And what's interesting is how they handle fame. They met quietly on a dating app back in 2018. And Phineas has actually talked about letting Claudia handle the wedding planning mostly. He's positioning himself as the, quote, hype man.
That choice, though, an intimate, carefully controlled wedding plan. Phineas stepping back from being the control freak producer we know him as.
Yeah.
It's such a stark contrast to the explosion of information around the royals, right? They're deliberately choosing privacy, intimacy, not spectacle. A really strategic move for a couple constantly under the music industry spotlight.
Exactly. They're picking their moments of vulnerability. Whereas the royals, well, their secrets are being exposed whether they like it or not. Speaking of controlling the narrative, let's talk Kim Kardashian. She's not just famous anymore, she's deep into a major professional pivot.
Totally. Kim's been prepping intensely for her role in that Hulu series, All's Fair, comes out in November. Made a huge splash at the premiere, that sculpted look. And Ryan Murphy, the creator, calling her a lady avenger for her performance.
Wow, it's such a calculated professional move, isn't it? Designed to reshape her public image, pair that with her ongoing law studies. She's signaling serious professional ambition, moving beyond just being a reality star. She wants respect in high-level industry circles. It's a pretty remarkable example of turning celebrity into perceived professional authority.
And while some stars are definitely rising, others are finding maybe a new kind of stability after private struggles. Nicole Kidman, for instance. Reports say she's finding solace after that difficult divorce from Keith Urban in September. That was 19 years of marriage. Celebrity relationships, they become public property, don't they? How they handle the aftermath is so critical for their image going forward.
And we can't really leave the royal world behind completely without mentioning the other ongoing drama, that friction between Prince Harry and Meghan Markle and the rest of the family. It hasn't gone away. It's like this secondary pressure point for King Charles.
Yeah, those legal fights over security. These seem so deeply personal for Harry. He lost his appeal back in May for extra security when he's in the UK. And he told the BBC directly, didn't he, that King Charles won't speak to him because of this security stuff. He apparently feels devastated that he can't really bring Meghan and the kids back to the UK.
It's a different kind of instability than the Andrew crisis, though. Andrew was decisively cut off, seemingly for the good of the institution. Harry and Meghan, they're keeping their distance partly by choice, partly by necessity, and all while Meghan is actively building her own separate brand.
Her solo move is fascinating to watch, debuting her own Instagram page, that new Netflix series With Love, Meghan, on January 1st, positioning it as rethinking lifestyle programming. While the palace is all about consolidation and control, she's out there pursuing independent global relevance. It's just incredibly illuminating when you contrast these stories side by side. You've got this controlled, dramatic, truly historic move by the palace with Prince Andrew desperately trying to find stability, distance themselves from decades of scandal. And then, at the same time, you see the calculated image management of people like Kim Kardashian or Meghan Markle, actively shaping their own global narratives. If you're finding these twists and insights into celebrity and royal life interesting, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even wilder stories coming up next time.
So, just to summarize our deep dive today, we've really witnessed the definitive end of Prince Andrew's public life as the Duke of York. A historic, forced renunciation, ultimately triggered, it seems, by the renewed public shame from the Giuffre memoir and those contradictory emails. It felt like an unavoidable move, really, facing that complete loss of public trust. Meanwhile, the celebrity world keeps spinning, figures strategically crafting their images, which is such a stark contrast to the, well, accidental self-destruction we saw play out with the prince.
So the big question then, what does this all mean for the future? The palace acted swiftly, decisively, historically, uniquely on Andrew, forcing him to give up using a dukedom. What does this immediate, pretty harsh strategy tell us about King Charles III's long-term goals for protecting the monarchy? Is this maybe a sign the crown is finally putting modern transparency, institutional protection ahead of those ancient family ties? That's definitely something to think about as we watch the royals navigate this new, super media-saturated era.
You've been listening to The Deep Dive, powered by the Starscope Report, where we uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.